Whenever I'm in a situation where you lose the momentum and you're feeling stuck, once again, you take a moment and you acknowledge it. You're like, wow, the vibe is off. And then find one, even if it's the smallest win, one win to just get that momentum going again.
Welcome back. It is another episode of Two Lit Chicks. We are leaders in tech. It is your girl, Fern Johnson. I'm here with my partner in crime, Dr. Alicia Makaye. We are here with Mr. Cody Morris, and we're so excited for this afternoon's podcast to talk about your attitude, how it impacts your altitude. But let's first learn a little bit about someone who I've known for just a few years. He comes from some great stock. Happen to know his mother and his father, and have watched your journey and your career journey over the past, I want to say, 20 years?
It's been 20 years
It's been 20 years?
Yep.
And you know what I love about you is just how positive you've always been. I thought when we thought about this topic, you were the first person that came to mind because you were, from the jump, like, I'm going to be successful and I have a great positive attitude. I'm going to continue to kill it. So before we get into all that, and Alicia's going to take us through our questions for this session, but tell us who you are, who you're working for, what are you doing now, a motto you might live by, and a little fun unknown fact about Mr. Cody Morris.
Name's Cody Morris, Director of Product and Growth at Aerostrat Software, also part of the founding team. What we do is we make maintenance planning software for the aviation industry. So basically airlines put their planes in our product and we help them build optimized plans for maintaining them. Before that, was working at a fashion tech company here in Dallas called Reward Style. Now it's known as LTK. And then before that, with you at PepsiCo.
What? That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
So what's your fun fact? Oh, no. You can give us a fun fact.
Yeah. Let's do the fun fact.
Okay.
Let's do the fun fact.
All right,
fun fact about me, and I think this will come up later when we talk about positivity, is that I actually know sign language. A lot of people don't know that about me. And I know that because my grandmother was deaf, or is deaf still. And so that's a little unknown fact about me that people don't really get to hear or learn very often.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great skill to have. You'll tap into that. So, do you have a motto? Like,
I don't.
Oh, okay. No motto. All right. So
no motto yet. Maybe I'll come up with it today.
They not like us. They not like us.
There
That's
you go.
the motto for this show. I think we're going to call it They Not Like
There
Us
you go.
show.
I like it.
Yes, that sounds great. I love it.
I like it.
Over to you, Alicia.
Okay, so Cody, you know this is my first time meeting you, and I've heard some amazing things about you. And so, positivity. Let's talk about it, which basically is AKA attitude.
Right.
So what I heard is that you're a very positive person, and a lot of people are just attracted to you because you're just fun and great to be around. So where does that come from?
You know, when I was coming on today, I tried to spend some time thinking about what is the root of positivity. You know, I think a lot of it comes from being surrounded by people that are positive, and also seeing people achieve things that they want to achieve, right? And so, growing up, I mentioned my deaf grandmother. You know, I had a lot of people in my life who set out to do things, even in hard circumstances, and then they achieved it. And so when they told me that I could achieve what I want to achieve, it instilled that in me, and then I think that ends up coming out as positivity.
So my question to you is, you are a positive person. How do you sustain your charge every single day, regardless of what's going on? Because we all have something going on behind the scenes. So talk to the audience about, if they've never heard of this. Some of them, this is the first time they're hearing about this. Let's talk to the audience. Yeah,
so I think being positive, like any other trait, is something that you can work on and grow at if you're diligent and you pay attention to what you're thinking about, what you're consuming from a content perspective. And the more that you get wins, the easier it is to become positive, right? And so, like moving a boulder or pushing a snowball down a hill, you have to start small. And so I think if someone's in a position where they're trying to change their circumstance or get that job or go to the next level, really, it's putting in the work, and then it's listening to yourself and pumping yourself up. I remember when I was moving from PepsiCo to the startup, no software engineering background, wanted to learn to code. I spent the time to teach myself, but before every interview, I was listening to hype music.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
I was in my car telling myself that I could do
Do
it.
this.
Right? And so, fake it till you make it. I don't really like that term, but you can hype yourself up. And the things you consume and the things you tell yourself have an impact on the way other people see you and the way you see yourself.
Do you think that some of your values that you were brought on, the morals, feed into that high standard that you have? Anything that kind of from your parents, you spoke with your grandmother, the rest of your family on, hey, I had a moral of or value of hard work or taking risks or being adventurous. I'm not sure, but any of those kind of stem from your family or from others that have helped you?
Yeah, I think so. So I think starting from a young age, if I wanted something from my father, from my mother, people in my life, they would make me work for it.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like if you want that allowance or you want to get that game or you want the pair of shoes, you're going to clean the garage, like you're going to put in work for it. So I think they instilled that attitude of work early.
Okay.
Right? And so I think that made me more comfortable with the idea that if I do the work, then I will have opportunities to get what I want. It doesn't mean that I will get what I want, but that's where the positivity comes in because you have to keep trying. You have to keep putting reps in, and eventually you get those wins, and then it's easy. It's a lot easier to be positive.
So being in a startup, an entrepreneur, and Alicia, you probably can speak to this too, it's not always instant success.
It's a fun topic. That's a fun one.
What'd you say, Cody? That's a topic all by itself.
Yeah, that's
How
a good one.
How do you stay positive when an entrepreneurial world is ups and downs and downs and downs and ups and kind of...
Yeah, I like this because I feel this one. This question, I think, resonates a lot with me because, at PepsiCo, I did well. At Reward Style, when I went there, I did really well. And so when I was leaving there to start Aerostrat, I thought it would be easy. Like you see people with overnight successes, you see entrepreneurs go start a company and blow up overnight. And what I did was I left a fast-paced B2C industry and went to B2B industry with a really slow sales cycle. And what that meant was that gratification became much slower, right? So thinking back to experiences that I had, I remember doing a pitch to a customer that they're now a customer and having them just shut it down, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and just being like, we shouldn't be having this conversation.
Like in the middle of your conversation?
In the middle of the pitch to the whole org. And it's because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what I was getting myself into at the time. And I think to circle back to your question about how do you stay positive, I think there's always going to be moments where you feel let down, where you think something is going to work out and it doesn't, and you just need to allow yourself to feel that pain, right? Absorb it, and then tomorrow tell yourself, all right, we're gonna keep getting after it. And the next time will be different, maybe.
You know what's important, and we tend to want to just gloss by things and just move on to the next, is you said stop and feel the pain and acknowledge what just happened and what the learning was from it. That's so important. I think we're so quick to just go and fix, right? But I think it's an important step because then you'll learn from that and you'll really take in the feeling and say, okay, we don't ever want that again.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that's part of being positive, right? And so if you give yourself the space to feel those setbacks when in your personal time, in your personal life, then it's easier to turn around and be recharged when it's time to be positive again. So, I think of it like the tide coming in and out, right? Like I'm not positive 100% of the time, but I make sure that I am when it matters by giving myself the personal space to process whatever I'm dealing with.
Cody, I know just as an entrepreneur, because I'm as well in the entrepreneurship world, and what I've experienced in the past is how my attitude did impact my strategy, how it impacted what I was delivering on a daily basis. Have you experienced where how you showed up every day impacted the bottom line?
Yeah, definitely. So as a founder, I keep coming back to Aerostrat, but it's the first time that I experienced building something from the ground up, right? And so when you do that, you have to do a lot of things that aren't in your wheelhouse. You have to grow new muscles and skills. And one of those for me was sales. So, I have more of a tech background, and I wasn't used to going and selling internationally and doing these new things. And specifically with sales, attitude is everything, right? And that positive attitude is everything. People don't want to buy things from someone who gives them a negative vibe, a negative energy. But if you can vibe with someone and they feel that you're positive and that you're excited, everything gets easier. And so I think that's the best example I have of where having a negative attitude resulted in bad outcomes and vice versa.
So how has having a positive attitude impacted your organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to that customer I mentioned where they shut down that meeting, right? And next time I saw them, it was positive. It was thank you for educating us that we went about it the wrong way. And now they're a customer of ours. So I think that, you mentioned this earlier, but positivity really radiates. People can feel it in a room. They can tell that vibe, and I think it will impact everything in people's lives.
I think about in the corporate side, when you actually go about hiring people, part of that is what is that aura and that vibe that they give and they bring to the conversation, they bring to the interview, and they bring to the role. So even if it's not in hiring, but let's say you're picking out a new team, it might not be the most technical person, it might not be the smartest person, but if they have the right attitude and it will help that cohesiveness of the group, that's the person that you want, because you can teach the rest. But some of the positivity and that high energy and that can-do spirit, that's hard to teach. It's got to kind of be ingrained in you. So I think it's awesome on the sales side, definitely needed, high energy, positivity. But just in working in teams and how collaborative we are, especially because we're working across borders and you can't necessarily see or in person everyone all the time.
Right.
But you've got to bring that energy that says, hey, I want to do this with you. I want to work. So I think it's important on both the entrepreneur and the corporate side.
Yeah, I really like that topic, Fern, because, you mentioned that a big part of this is helping people elevate their careers, right? Through positivity. Right. And when I think about, myself or me as a hiring manager hiring people, I think one of the best ways to get that opportunity that you might not be more qualified for technically is to be that person who comes in with the right attitude and energy that people want to teach.
And are attracted to. Because I think that you get attracted, like, oh my God, I just want that good juju to kind of come up and drip on me. Yeah. Yeah,
so let's now begin to just unpack the science of the attitude. And one of the common terms that we are very well aware of is emotional intelligence. And it's a buzzword that a lot of people talk about in their organizations. Cody, define what emotional intelligence is, and then tell us basically how do you foster it inside of your organization, and do you even let me ask you this, in your organization, do y'all even train on emotional intelligence?
Right. I love this question. I'll start from the beginning because there was 3 in there, right? So for me, emotional intelligence or EQ it's all about being able to understand what people are saying, whether they're saying something or not. So you feel their energy, you feel their vibe, and what that lets you do is stop talking when you should stop talking, first of all, right? Not pull certain threads when you know someone might be having a bad day. But it really just helps you kind of mold the environment around how that person is and who they are as a person. And I think it starts with active listening, like truly listening to what people are saying, and reading between the lines and trying to think beyond, what someone says or what they do, and really try to understand, like, what is this person going through? What is their background, and how does that influence the way that they're acting? And so, the third question was, does our organization actively train on this? We're so small. We have 10 employees, so not right now, but I think it's something we would definitely bring in as we grew, and it became more of a active effort to maintain the culture. Yeah.
A good tip that I always heard is, and I think this ties to emotional intelligence, is seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So seeking to understand says, I'm trying to understand what you are saying first, like listen with Ting, that active listening you talked about, And then after I think about that, reflect, then I can seek for you to understand me. But it puts the other person first to listen. So I think that's about a little bit of the emotional intelligence and also about reading the room.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I like that saying.
What are some practical ways that you can tell our audience of how to maintain a positive attitude in challenging situations? And we all have challenging situations. And so, but how do you just maintain your positivity even in tough times?
Yeah. So when I find myself slipping, a lot of people are familiar with this term of like gratitudes and like really taking time out of your morning or your day to sit and think about if there are things in your life that you're grateful for, really appreciating them, right? And so that's what I fall back on first. If I'm reacting unreasonably or I'm feeling not very positive, I sit back and I'm like, all right, I try to put everything back in perspective for myself by writing down what I'm grateful for or telling myself what I'm grateful for in my life, whether it's people around me that love me or successes or whatever it could be. Yeah.
Cody, are you on the hiring team?
Yes.
Your organization?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever passed someone up and not hired them, even though they were technically sound, but you were not able to connect with the person and they did not have the right attitude?
Absolutely.
Audience, did you hear that?
Yeah. And
I think Alicia was trying to make a point there. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. And to take it further, I've actively hired people because I see a mindset in them or an attitude in them that makes me think this person's going to come in and they're going to really dedicate themselves to growing and learning, and you want to help those people. And so, I mentioned I don't have a software engineering degree, right? And so people took a chance on me to give me that opportunity. And so now when I have an opportunity to give someone a chance that comes from a less traditional background, but their energy is there, I'm all about it.
I did that for Cody. So Cody was an intern for me many years ago, and he was like a ball bouncing off the walls. High energy, wanted to learn, wanted to contribute, wanted to add value. And so, I think that people should hear two things, because I know the message you want to say is that you have to bring that right attitude. But when you bring that right attitude, leaders will take, and it's not even about taking a risk, they will invest in you to learn the other pieces that are needed for the role.
Exactly. Because people want to lift other people up.
Exactly.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Like, I think people do want to help people achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve, but they don't want to help someone who's going to be a negative or a cultural drain on the company. But if you can be that person who comes in with a positive attitude and make it obvious to the people that are interviewing you, like, hey, I do want to be here and I'm willing to put in the work and I'm excited, then I think people will extend you that olive branch and try to lift you up.
You talked about some communities. You talked about, you kind of reflect into your own gratitude. Are there any other communities, you talked about family, that you tap in to keep that high level of positivity, or are there any activities that you do outside of the gratitude? Like, I'll give you an example for myself. If I know my energy is off, so this was really, really prevalent when we were working in COVID times. And, you're on the Zoom all the time, staying positive for your teams, globally working with organizations. But at times that can be draining, right? And I was very self-aware of my energy and when I had to reset my energy. And I would go to the Peloton.
Nice.
So working from home, I could take 10 minutes, ride the bike, and have that trainer ride it out. And it would reset my energy, and I would go on with the rest of my day. And I would like, okay, I'm back to Fern. Do you have any communities or any activities that help you reset so that you can come in and be that co-founding leader, be that great sales guy, that great technical guy every day, day in, day out? I mean, because sometimes we need something that's going to help us reset.
Yeah, it's draining. So, I like to think about it as, there's certain things that you do, certain tasks where you can't think about work. Peloton might be one of those things when someone's yelling at you to pedal faster, right? And so for me personally, it's lifting, things like that, exercising. It could be playing video games. It could be listening or making music. Anything where I cannot do that thing and thinking about work at the same time.
So it's amazing when you do other things, although you're not you think you're not thinking about work, you are thinking about it in your subconscious. It's like, is it on your front brain or your back brain? But I think it's still always kind of moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the root of emotion is motion.
I like that.
And so when you move in motion, it helps to tap into your emotion.
I love that.
And so that's why when Fern was talking about getting on the Peloton, she's actually moving emotion through her body through motion. So I have the same, something very similar is in my office. I have a trampoline.
Oh, nice.
So, my spouse, which is also my business partner, he has a trampoline in his office as well. And so one thing that we do to change our emotion is to get into motion through using a trampoline.
I like
so
that.
You must have not that I'm trying to get into your office space, but you must have a very high, if you're jumping on the trampoline, how high are your ceilings?
They're pretty high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're pretty high. And
That's
so
cool.
The state, we are very intentional on training on state story and strategy in our office, emotional intelligence, because of the fact that we have seen so many people in the tech field. Because soft skills tend to be a struggle in the tech field.
Absolutely.
Do you find that as well, Cody?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So in order to us to be more intentional on delivering great customer service, we have to do customer service training, but we also talk to our tech team about the emotions, because emotions it impacts every area of your life. And in order to change your emotion, we talk to them about getting into motion. So when we start our company meetings, we start off, we're hyping them up, we have music on, we're dancing in the front of the room.
I love it.
In order to start our company meeting, because we're changing people's state.
Right. So you mentioned
like
three
that.
things. You said state, story, and what's the third one?
Strategy.
Strategy. Okay.
You have to ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself?
Right.
The story, this is when therapy comes into play, because it's all about your perspective. You can say, oh, my house is burning down, or you can say, oh, thank goodness I didn't lose my life in that burning house.
Right.
Absolutely.
You can be grateful that you didn't lose your life, or you could be upset that you lost your house.
Right.
So it's all about the story that you're telling yourself. That impacts your strategy of how you're going to approach the situation. So speaking of approaching a situation, have you actually had a moment at your organization where the energy in the room was just not where you needed it to be for you either to get the sale or to sell something to your employees or get the idea across? And how did you go about? Did you stop the meeting and say, y'all, let's come back to this? How were you reading the room?
Yeah, I think for us, we're a smaller team and we have a slower sales cycle. So I think for us, those moments where people's positivity is slipping and you need to pull them back or reset, it's almost more drawn out because it happens slowly over time. So it's like a project where you start out with very high hopes and dreams, and in the beginning you think it's going to be a very big needle moving activity. The whole team buys in, they're excited. Time moves on, it becomes more and more of a meat grinder, and then you ship it, and then maybe the customer doesn't even use it. And so we've had experiences like that, and what I try to do is just, number one, show them that I feel it too. It's acknowledging, it's going back to acknowledging it. I don't think that, for me, just glossing over it leads to the result, but then it's acknowledging all the gains that you had along the way, the other ways that work can lead to positive results. So like you said, it's that glass half full.
So I'll add to that, if I can just add a build. I think in larger organizations, what I've seen be successful is, so let's say you're in a big meeting and you've got vendor partners, and for whatever the topic is not going well, just say, you know what, guys, let's just take a 5-10 minute break. That also resets the energy.
Oh, that's good.
And what that does is it doesn't stop the meeting, but it just says, let's take a pause, let's get some fresh air, because sometimes it could be varying levels of blood sugar levels have gone low. Hey, one person said something off, they can't get off the wrong word that was stated, or the wrong comment that was stated. And if you just take a pause and allow the room to reset, sometimes you don't lose the whole entire meeting. So that's one way in large situations. And I think you mentioned it as well. Sometimes when things go horribly bad, you got to break it down into what small steps of wins did we have. So instead of saying you're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, everything was bad, it's like, hey, did we develop a new product? Did we develop a new process? So can you get some good out of what happened and share that goodness piece? So I think there are ways that you can keep organizations feeling positive, even if the full outcome wasn't what you expected.
Right. And it can also bring the team closer together.
Exactly.
You know, depending on the energy there. And so, you know, if you think about a room where people are talking and the volume keeps getting higher and higher and higher and suddenly everyone's screaming, it's like what you're discussing, Fern, where you just let everyone simmer down, volume comes down, and then it's a normal conversation again.
Yeah.
Cody, let me ask you this, because as an entrepreneur, you can get stuck. Oh boy, if that stuck sets in, you can be in trouble, because it can really lead to the tumble of an organization, especially when you're in the inception phase or you're a small organization. So how do you stay unstuck? Because being stuck can impact your attitude.
Yeah, you know, it's a really good question. I think sometimes you need to give it a little bit of time where you're stuck for a small period of time, and then you find that small win. Right? You know, it's all about finding those little wins in your life or in your career that you can start layering on top of and building. And so for me, whenever I'm in a situation where you lose the momentum and you're feeling stuck, once again, you take a moment and you acknowledge it. You're like, wow, the vibe is off. And then find one, even if it's the smallest win, one win to just get that momentum going again.
Do you have any people in your life, successful people or family members who you model your behavior after? Like, can you say, hey, so I'll just give you an example. I don't must say model my behavior after this gentleman, but I just recently heard Les Brown, who's a famous speaker and author, talk in the past couple of days. High energy, high storytelling, talking about his heart and talking about putting heart into stories and how you put your message across. It's like, wow, I would like to pick up some of those tips and tricks from him. Do you have any people, successful or other, that you model behavior after?
Yes.
Especially in this realm of positivity.
Of course. You know, I think the most positive person I've ever met is my mom, my mother.
Okay.
And so, you know, she grew up as a CODA, a child of a deaf adult. She had a very challenging upbringing because of that. But she's managed to do whatever it is that she sets her mind to, right? Like becoming an actress and being executive and everything that she's tried. So whenever I'm feeling down or, you know, I think she's my biggest role model when it comes to just relentless positivity.
So can you rewind the tape?
Sure.
You said something about CODA. I'd never heard that term. Can you break that down just a little bit for us?
Yeah. So it's a pretty big community. It's CODA, CODA, and it means child of a deaf adult. So it's basically communities of people who are of hearing, like they can hear, but their parents are deaf. And so, you know, you can imagine, put yourself back into your teenage years if your parents were deaf or your mother was deaf, and the things that you experience when you're really, in a lot of ways, helping them, taking care of them. You're going to the grocery store, you're being the voice of your parent, right? And so I think she came out of that with a lot of strength and positivity, and then that trickled down to me.
Oh, nice. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's a little personal, but I'd never heard that term before. And I know your mom is super positive, and I didn't know that was the root of it. So I appreciate that you opened up that door for us to understand.
Yeah.
So, Cody, where are we at? We want to develop a growth mindset for continuous improvement. How do you do that?
So the first thing I do when I feel like I'm lacking on something and I'm trying to build more of a growth mindset is, and it sounds funny because people have it in their head, is I write things down. You have to write down what you want to achieve and then make yourself look at it every day. Because we carry around these things in our head, deliverables, emails you have to respond to, bills you should have paid, and it's like a weight on you. And so when you write these things down, it makes it more discreet and achievable. And so I think the first step of building a growth mindset is building this habit of, just like I active listen to other people, I'm going to listen to myself and my inner dialogue and the things that are stressing me out. And then I'm going to write down the things I want to achieve and treat it like all the other things that I prioritize.
So I'm envisioning Cody standing in the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
and yellow stickies all over the glass. I mean, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, standing in the shower. Yeah, just thinking about everything. And then I get out and I write it down. And honestly, a lot of the time I don't even look at it again. It's the act of writing it down. You know, it's like when you tell someone to remind you, hey, remind me to do this tomorrow. Then you always remember.
Yeah. It's also a way of learning and holding yourself accountable.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, Cody, what do you want to tell our audience that really struggle in this area? You know, everyone has personal things that they're going through. Everybody has some type of challenge. But in spite of all of that, how you show up matters. So what words of encouragement would you give our audience?
Yeah, I like this question a lot. So, you know, for anyone out there who's listening and is trying to level up or break into a new opportunity or just change their circumstance, first you have to tell yourself and believe, and maybe even literally tell yourself out loud that you can achieve it and that you deserve these things. And so I think combining that with doing the work, there's no shortcut for doing the work. So whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, you have to invest the time and go at it systematically. And I think if you put in the work and you have that positive attitude, someone will give you an opportunity to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. If you're just persistent and positive, and people can sense when you want to be there and when you're trying hard to achieve it.
We love your optimism. We love your golden nuggets that you've shared with us, being positive always, the family piece of what your story is about. And so I think that I've really learned a lot about how to keep the head high, the crown high, the head high, the shoulders back, coming with that right energy. It brings people to you, attracts work to you, and it helps you be more successful. So thank you for sharing and being a part of our season and part of being our optimistic journey to help others. So thank you so much.
Cody, how can we find you if you want to be found by our audience?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Cody Morris. It's probably the best way to find me. And I'm so happy to have been here. I appreciate you both giving me that